I read 423 books in 2025, so today I thought I would highlight my 25 favorite thriller books of the year. If you don't know me, I'm Carrie, and I read a book a day to give you the best thriller, mystery, and horror book recommendations, so if you're into that, make sure to give me a follow. And if you're looking for more ways to support me, I have a website, curryreads.com, where I sell bookish merch and custom TBRs. I'd like to note before we get started that some of these books don't come out until this year, but I read them last year, so I'm counting them anyway. These are in no particular order. Dead in the Water by Marsh publishes on January 20th, and it follows a man named Damon who survives a near-drowning experience when he has a memory of a face that he can't quite place, and so he decides the only way he can solve this mystery is to die again and again. Love Mom by Iliana Xander follows Mackenzie, who is the daughter of a famous author that just passed away. She then receives an envelope full of her mother's old diary entries that reveal that she may have been an unaliver. Believe Me Now by S.M. Govett follows Natalie, who has PTSD after she was assaulted by her boss, who unfortunately got away with the crime. Her husband Ryan has always been there for her, but now he has been accused of the exact same crime. On a Quiet Street by Serafina Novaglass follows a group of neighbors that live in an exclusive neighborhood on the Oregon coast, who get entangled with each other's lives and one by one start uncovering each other's secrets. You'll Never Know by Caleb Stevens is available on Kindle Unlimited. It follows a man named Grant whose pregnant wife gets abducted in broad daylight, and then he is notified that he must solve a series of riddles in order to get her back. My Darlings by Marie Still follows Eloise, who has the perfect facade of a housewife and mother, but she is secretly a serial unaliver. You Deserve to Know by Aggie Blum Thompson follows three neighbors that are closer than ever and seem to have an unbreakable bond, but then one of their husbands is unalived and it uncovers a web of deception. The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier is available on Kindle Unlimited. There was once a serial unaliver known as the Beacon Hill Butcher that terrorized Seattle, but he was taken out by the police chief Edward Shank. Now Edward is retired and moving to a retirement community, and his grandson moves into his place, and there he discovers something very ominous that changes everything. It Should Have Been You by Andrea Mara publishes on January 13th here in the US, and it follows Susan, who sends a salacious gossipy text message about a neighbor to her sisters, but then realizes it was actually sent to the community group chat. The very next day, a woman with the exact same address as Susan is unalived, leading her to believe that it should have been her. We Lie Here by Rachel Howzell-Hall is available on Kindle Unlimited, and it follows Yara, who visits her hometown of Palmdale for her parents' 20th anniversary when she is contacted by one of her mother's supposed old friends saying that she has information that may change her life. But when Yara goes to meet this woman Felicia, it's too late because her body is found floating in the lake. But Felicia left a key for Yara to a cabin that may harbor all of the clues she may need to figure out what's going on. It's Not Her by Mary Kubica publishes on February 3rd, and it follows Courtney, who is on a lakeside cabin vacation with her family and her brother's family. They're staying in separate cabins, but then she hears a scream from her brother's cabin. She races over to find her brother and his wife unalived and their teenage daughter missing. Is the daughter the perpetrator, or is she another victim? My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney publishes on January 20th, and it follows Eden Fox, who decides to go out for a run one day, and when she returns home, she's locked out, and a woman answers the door wearing her clothes, claiming to be her. But Eden knows exactly who she is, so who is this woman, and why does Eden's husband claim to not know her? Too Old for This by Samantha Downing follows an elderly woman named Lottie Jones, who was once a serial unaliver. She has put that life behind her, but unfortunately something happens and she's inevitably pulled back into the serial unaliver lifestyle. Not So Perfect Strangers by L.S. Stratton follows two women who are in some domestic abuse situations, and they decide they are going to help each other out. But one of them has a different idea of what that looks like and takes it way too far. Guess Again by Charlie Donlea follows Ethan Hall, who was once a renegade detective who is now retired and become an ER doctor. But he is called to investigate the disappearance of a 17-year-old volleyball star named Callie Jones, who vanished 10 years ago. The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dionne follows Helena, whose mother was abducted by her father and held her captive for many years, and Helena was the product of that relationship while in captivity. Her father has now been put away for his crimes, and Helena has put the past behind her, but then her father escapes prison, and she knows that she is the only one who can figure out where he is. The Dead Husband Cookbook by Danielle Valentine follows Thea, who is asked to edit the tell-all memoir of a famous chef named Maria, whose husband Damien vanished many years ago, and he was also a famous chef. Since then, Maria has been under suspicion that she may have unalived Damien, and that she may be using his meat as her secret ingredient in her recipes. Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson follows Jet, who is attacked and left for dead on Halloween, just to wake up and be told that she only has 7 days to live, and so she decides to use those 7 days in order to figure out who unalived her. Delta County by J.L. Hyde is the first book in a series, and it follows a woman named Heather as she recounts to her therapist how her life in an idyllic lakeside town in Michigan was absolutely destroyed after the disappearance of her best friend, and all these shocking revelations that were to follow. The Vanishing Place by Zoe Rankin follows Effie, who escaped an unconventional life deep in the New Zealand bush and moved to Scotland many years ago. But she's now been called back to New Zealand because a small child was found in the exact same way she was all those years ago, and the authorities believe that Effie is the only one who can figure out what's going on with this child and why she's here. The Man Made of Smoke by Alex North is available on Kindle Unlimited, and it follows a man named Dan Garvey who in his childhood narrowly escaped with his life by a serial unaliver. Since then, he's become a criminal profiler and he seeks justice for innocent victims. But when his father suspiciously passes away, he must dive back into his past and confront everything that he went through in order to figure out what happened to his father. My Sweet Girl by Amanda Jayatissa follows Paloma, who was adopted from a Sri Lankan orphanage and was given everything in life, but she's recently been cut off from her parents, and she has a new roommate named Arun, who unfortunately has discovered her dark secret, and when she goes to confront him, she finds Arun in a pool of blood. She goes to get the authorities, but when she returns, he's not there, the blood's not there, and the authorities can't prove that this man ever existed. The Bone Thief by Vanessa Lillie is a sequel to Blood Sisters, and it follows Sid Walker, who is an archaeologist for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, who is diving headfirst into an investigation of missing skeletal remains and a missing local indigenous woman. Such Quiet Girls by Noelle W. Ihli is available on Kindle Unlimited, and it follows a bus driver and the bus full of kids that get abducted in broad daylight and buried underground. We Don't Talk About Carol by Kristen L. Berry follows Sydney, who discovers that she has an aunt that vanished many years ago that nobody talks about, and so she decides after all of these years, she's finally going to figure out what happened to her Aunt Carol. Thank you so much for watching. It was so hard to narrow down that list. Tomorrow I'll be posting my top 25 horror books of 2025, so stay tuned, and please leave me a comment and let me know all of your favorite thriller books you read last year.